Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you all to the UN's 68th Commission on the Status of Women. This special event is presented by the International United Women's Federation, together with the Alliance Creative Community Project, and is entitled Empowering Upcountry Women, Bridging Gender Divides and Creating a Sustainable Future. My name is Anusha, and I'm a project director with IUWF, and I'll be one of your moderators today. I come before you as someone who is part of the Upcountry community. My mother was born in Colombo. My father was born in Gampala, Sri Lanka. And both of my parents are of South Indian Tamil descent. I was born in Colombo. However, Upcountry issues hit close to home on a very personal level. I would like to open this event with a Tamil poem written by Mr. Nadesan Krishnamurthy, an Upcountry community leader here in Toronto, Canada. மலை உயரத்தில் குடிமனை தலை குனிந்த வாழ்நிலை திசையெங்கும் பசுமை காட்சி வசிக்கும் லயங்கள் அடிமை சாட்சி தேயிலையால் தேசிய பொருளாதாரம் நிமிர்ந்தது கூடை சுமந்த தொழிலாளில் வாழ்வில் சரிந்தது இது 200 வருட கால கதை முடிவுக்கு வருமா எங்கள் கதை. As it translates, although they live high in the mountains, they live their lives with their head bowed down. Although the land around them is lush and beautiful, their homes are in deplorable conditions. Even though tea is the main source of the island's economy, the workers live in poverty and hardship. This has been their story for the past 200 years. When will it come to an end? In order to understand this poem, it is important to provide some context to the history of the Upcountry Tamils. Upcountry Tamils are one of Sri Lanka's most marginalized communities, making up approximately 9% of the island's population. It is also estimated that 380,000 people live in the estates, 53% of whom are women. Women of the Upcountry region rank among South Asia's most oppressed gender groupings. The term Upcountry refers to the hillside areas in the island's southern regions, where the British introduced tea cultivation during the colonial era. In 1823, British colonial administrators enlisted people from southern India to work as indentured laborers in what was then Ceylon. Last year marked 200 years of this treacherous journey. Many Upcountry Tamils remained stateless until they were granted citizenship in 2003, 55 years after the Ceylon Citizenship Act was in place. The discrimination faced by Upcountry Tamils has created communities plagued with alcoholism, inadequate infrastructure and funding for housing and schools, gender discrimination, poverty, poor working and inadequate sanitation conditions on tea plantations, deprivation of rights to secure land for housing and agriculture, and a lack of access to government services. This event will analyze the history and data which showcase several barriers faced by Upcountry women in relation to gender, socioeconomic status, class, caste, and ethnicity. We will also explore what development and empowerment means for women of the Upcountry community. We hope to enlighten you with our panel of experts and researchers and enhance your experience with audiovisuals and personal testimonies. We also have a special guest lined up, so please stay tuned to the end of the event. And remember to keep yourself on mute to maintain the continuity of this program. Empowering upcountry women means helping them break through each obstacles to free themselves. This means their efforts to improve their own lives will, in turn, benefit the men and children in their families, their larger social communities, their fellow Tamils, and workers across many borders. This conference is a meaningful step towards empowering upcountry women of Sri Lanka. Thank you. So we can kickstart this event with a warm welcome from the CEO and founder of the International United Women's Federation, Mrs. Raji Patterson.
Thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the International United Women Federation and the Alliance Creative Community Project, I extend our warmest greetings and welcome you all. It is my privilege to welcome our keynote speaker, guest speakers, participants, fellow activists. We greatly appreciate each person's presence today. The 68th Annual Commission on the Status of Women priority theme is accelerating the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls by addressing poverty and strengthening institution and financing with a gender perspective. According to the UN Women, globally 10.3% of women live in extreme poverty today, and they are poorer than men. Progress towards ending poverty needs to be 26 times faster than achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. At the current rate of progress, as many as 342 million women will still be living in extreme poverty by 2030. There is a huge need of accelerating gender equality and women's development to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 1, eradicating poverty as a whole. What does this mean to upcountry women? Why this is important to them? According to the Daily Mirror, today the population of Tamils in plantation in the upcountry total around 1.5 million, which is 4.2% of total population. 40% of upcountry people live in estate without land rights and poor living conditions. According to The Guardian, more than 300,000 people work in Sri Lanka's tea plantations, which are mainly in the mountainous central highlands. In 2022, the industry generated 1.079 billion in exports. The majority of the tea estate workers are women, and they are the backbone of the economy to the country. Unfortunately, upcountry women often face significant socio-economic challenges, including poverty, limited access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. In this conference, we are exploring the areas of access to quality education and skill development that enhances their employability and also empower them to take on leadership roles in their communities. It is important to create opportunities for upcountry women to generate income and become financially independent to thrive in economic empowerment, which may encourage them to be independent. This is possible through microfinance programs, vocational training, and support for entrepreneurship. We must take action together to empower upcountry women and bridge gender divides by including all women in all opportunities to thrive. We have a great need to work towards strengthening community networks and organizations that support upcountry women, enabling them to voice their needs and priorities. Together, let's make a difference and build a more inclusive and equitable society for all. I cordially welcome our keynote speaker, His Excellency Professor Tomoya Obokata, Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Forms of Slavery, United Nations. Ms. Rathika, Sitsabaiesan Professor and ex-Member of Parliament of Canada. Dr. Sudarshan MBBS Medical Officer and Maternal and Child Health Nuwara, Sri Lanka. Mr. Lorenzo Fiorito, Legal Editor and Student Barrister from UK. Ms. Rukmi Jayasinki, Researcher in Health System Development and Founder of Women in Research Upcountry Sri Lanka. Along with them, I'm glad to welcome Dr. Newman Ansley Yoharaja, Mr. Dickson, Peter Francis, Finance and Operational Manager, Rosie Beta, Economic Development Officer, and Rajendran Danisha from Sri Lanka. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our guest speakers and participants who have made this event possible. I would also like to acknowledge our precious team who worked very hard to bring the success of this conference. and working towards this good cause. Your support and dedication to this cause are truly commendable. I encourage all participants to actively participate, share your insights, and forge meaningful connection that will contribute to the empowerment of upcountry women and the creation of more sustainable future for all. Thank you once again for joining us today. Together, let us work towards a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable society for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. So next on our agenda is a short video entitled Rising Beyond Adversity, Empowering Upcountry Women. This video will showcase the challenging circumstances faced by upcountry women and feature their personal stories and their achievements. Through their stories of overcoming challenges and striving for empowerment, the film inspires viewers to join the mission on supporting women's rights and creating positive change in communities worldwide.
Have you ever paused to ponder the journey of your cup of tea? Within the Emerald Hills of Sri Lanka lies a community often overlooked, the Hill Country Tamils. These resilient women, known for their unwavering strength, navigate through life amidst profound challenges, striving to carve out a better future for themselves and their families. Welcome to Empowering Upcountry Women, presented by the International United Women Federation. Established in 2018, our organization is dedicated to fostering gender equality and empowerment through skills development and proactive initiatives. In this film, we delve into the daily struggles and triumphs of the Hill Country Tamils, shedding light on the obstacles they face in the quest for basic human rights. The Hill Country Tamils face severe challenges meeting their fundamental needs of food, shelter, and water. Many live in cramped, inadequate housing, with some residing in dwellings as small as 5 square meters and sharing a single bathroom with multiple neighbors.
During the rainy season, I endure heavy rain and swarms of leeches. In the scorching summer heat, I have no relief from the blazing sun while working in the tea fields, often encountering dangerous creatures like snakes, leopards, and wasps. We can't afford nutritious food due to the economic crisis. We don't even have proper restrooms for answering nature's call. I struggle to provide for my family amidst these harsh conditions.
Despite my relentless labor as a Hill Country Tamil woman, I earn a meager 1,000 rupees a day for plucking 20 kilograms of tea leaves. Falling short of daily targets reduces my pay, trapping me in a cycle of poverty and debt. Unlike other workers, I cannot afford to strike for better wages, fearing the loss of my meager earnings. I was born into a life of adversity, with financial constraints leading to the premature halting of my children's education. The physical toll of my labor is evident in my scars, leech bites, and arthritis from the demanding work of tea plucking.
Despite their resilience, they are burdened by the fear of never escaping the cycle of poverty as they struggle to provide for their families and educate their children. These women are not just tea pluckers. They are the backbone of the communities, resilient in the face of adversity, yet yearning for a better future.
As a graduate facing discrimination in the job market due to societal prejudices, I experience worsened economic hardship due to social inequality. I encounter multiple layers of discrimination, including marginalization and stigma associated with my upcountry's origins, which contribute to cycles of oppression and poverty. These systemic barriers not only impede on my economic progress, but also diminish my sense of dignity and worth. Nonetheless, I persist with unwavering determination to create a brighter future for myself and my family.
Yet, within these challenges lie opportunities for empowerment. Initiatives promoting self-sustainability and skills development can liberate these women from the shackles of poverty. Access to resources and education enables them to acquire new skills, cultivate crops, and raise livestock, fostering self-reliance and resilience. By investing in education and vocational training, we can unlock doors to better employment opportunities, paving the way for a brighter future. By empowering these women, we not only uplift individuals, but also strengthen entire communities, creating a ripple effect of positive change that resonates for generations to come. Join us in our mission to empower upcountry women, bridging gender divides and forging a path towards a sustainable future. Together, let us uplift these resilient souls, ensuring that no woman is left behind. Let us stand united in our pursuit of equity and justice for all.
Now, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Tomoya Obokata, who was appointed as a special rapporteur on contemporary forms of slavery, including its causes and consequences in March 2020. He is a Japanese scholar of international law and human rights, specializing in transnational organized crime, human trafficking, and modern slavery. Professor Obokata currently serves as Professor of International Human Rights Law at York Law School and previously taught at Keele University, Queen's University Belfast, and Dundee University. Please help me welcome Professor Obokata.
Thank you very much. Dear participants, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. I am Tomoya Obokata from Japan, as just has been introduced, currently serving as the UN Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of slavery. Allow me to begin by thanking the International United Women Federation and the Alliance Creative Community Project for inviting me to this very important event, and it is an honor to open this panel. My intervention today will focus on my own observations with regard to the experiences of upcountry women in Sri Lanka, where I had a chance to visit officially in 2021. In fact, that was my very first visit as the Special Rapporteur, so Sri Lanka remains very close to my heart. Since my visit, I have been following the economic recession and its implications with great concern. Even though much has happened in the past 2 years, I believe that many of the findings which I reflected in my country visit report are still valid. Before turning to my reflections, however, I would like to refer to a national representative sample survey of 10,000 Sri Lankan households and qualitative research across 13 districts conducted by Lian Asia, published in June 2023. The study found that in estate communities, more than half of the population continues to live in poverty in the aftermath of Sri Lanka's economic crisis. Although it is important to remember that poverty has been an issue in all sectors across the country. In my country visit report, I also highlighted that poverty is a serious problem among Malayaha or upcountry Tamils, which is exacerbated by multiple forms of discrimination on the basis of their descent, gender, and other grounds, making them more vulnerable to labor as well as sexual exploitation. In this regard, I learned that the bonded labor occurs particularly in smaller private plantations, as workers are not allowed to live at their own will after taking up loans from the owners. Although their wages has been increased to 1,000 rupees per day in 2021, workers in other sectors are currently receiving a daily wage of about 3,500 rupees, clearly indicating a discriminatory treatment in the sector. I was informed that the management of estates reportedly impose various conditions, including an increase in daily targets for plucking, and wages are often deducted for unclear reasons. I was also dismayed at living conditions of plantation workers. Historically, they have not been able to own land, which has forced them to live in the so-called line houses, built some 150 years ago during colonial times. I visited some of these houses in the Kandy district, and I was alarmed at the undignified, inhumane, and degrading living conditions. I saw that commonly 5 to 10 people have to share a tiny space, and many line houses do not have windows, a proper kitchen, running water, or electricity. Also, several families have to share a latrine, and the government even admits that only 43% of the population living in the estate sector, which includes tea plantations, has access to adequate water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. My assessment was that these substandard living conditions, combined with the harsh working environment in the estate sector, represent clear indicators of forced labor and may, in some instances, also amount to serfdom. In the meantime, efforts have been made to improve the living conditions of estate workers, for example, by the government of India, which last November announced plans to build another 10,000 houses for estate workers in Sri Lanka as part of the next phase of the Indian housing project. Also, the government of Sri Lanka has taken steps to improve the housing conditions of plantation workers by allocating 14 billion rupees in the 2024 budget. Although this is encouraging, there has been insufficient progress in ending the discrimination of Malayaha Tamils at all levels, including with regard to the land rights and secure tenure for housing and livelihoods. This has hampered not only their economic potential, but also their access to education, healthcare, and other basic services. For example, due to the remoteness of plantations, there are no quality hospitals nearby, and workers often have to pay for private transport to access healthcare, including in the event of emergency. Similarly, although local governments implement social care and development projects, these often do not benefit upcountry community in practice. During my visit, members of the Malayaha community told me that historically their voices have been ignored by the estate management as well as the national government. I also received reports of harassment and surveillance of civil society organizations that stepped in to provide assistance. Furthermore, access to justice and remedies among minority communities are very limited due to discrimination. Finally, I found that in the estate sector, the literacy rate is about 66% in comparison with the urban literacy rate of 92%. This puts estate workers at a further disadvantage as there are limited opportunities for decent work due to lack of education and other opportunities. In relation to women in Sri Lanka, they continue to face intersecting forms of discrimination, including in the estate sector. I learned that in public and private estates, women generally pluck tea leaves and men carry out other tasks such as operating machines. Women generally have to work twice as long as men to earn the same salary due to the low wages for plucking tea leaves. And this is clearly discriminatory. I was also informed that domestic workers who are Malayaha Tamils tend to work longer hours, are paid less, and are known for not reporting their employers due to a fear of reprisals and other obstacles in securing access to justice and remedies. Many of these workers are often living domestic workers, and as a result, they face a higher risk of exploitation and physical, verbal, and sexual harassment and abuse. Another area of concern is microfinancing. Approximately 2.5 million women are said to be trapped in debt from microfinancing companies operating particularly in the informal sector, and this seems to be particularly serious among rural and upcountry communities with many female-headed households. I was informed during my visit that indebtedness has resulted in many suicides as well as sexual and labor exploitation of women. I was encouraged to hear that Sri Lanka launched its national policy on gender equality and women's empowerment exactly 1 year ago on the International Women's Day. One of the key objectives under these policies is to ensure equal opportunities and benefits, legal safeguards, access to training, skill development, and digital innovation, special protections, and access to social security for all women and gender minorities in the formal and informal employment sectors for estate, migrant, domestic, and home-based workers. The establishment of this national policy is commendable, and I believe that it has a real potential to empower the most marginalized women, including Upcountry and Malayaha women. And I urge the government to implement this policy as expeditiously as possible. I now wish to highlight some of the recommendations I made in my report on Sri Lanka. Through the Tripartite Plantation Human Development Trust, decent living conditions of workers should be ensured by providing adequate and affordable housing, access to safe water, sanitation, and healthcare for all. Efforts should be strengthened to eliminate ethnic and caste-based discrimination more effectively. In this regard, the government of Sri Lanka must ensure access to quality education, land, and decent work for Malayaha people. Temporary positive measures should be employed in order to rectify the injustice and inequality that they have been suffering historically. I also firmly believe that the number of female leaders within the public authorities and the business community should be increased. It is of vital importance that female leaders from upcountry communities receive a fair chance in this regard. Furthermore, members of minority communities and suppressed caste should be actively involved in all decision-making processes affecting their lives at the local and national levels. Business operating in Sri Lanka, including transnational corporations, need to take on more responsibility to protect the human rights of their workers by implementing the guiding principles on business and human rights. In order to do so, they should conduct human rights due diligence regularly and effectively to identify, prevent, mitigate, and account for potential and actual impacts of their business operations on human rights, including the gender dimensions. Lastly, I wish to stress that from my perspective, decent work, economic empowerment, gender equality, access to land ownership are all intertwined. If all of these areas are promoted inclusively without discrimination, no one will be left behind as per Sri Lanka's commitment made under the Sustainable Development Goals. At the end of the day, economic and social stability is in the interest of everyone in a country. I thank you for your attention and wish you all the best with the rest of this important event.
Thank you, Professor Obokata, for that insightful speech. Moving on, please help me welcome our next speaker, Ms. Tanisha Rajendran. Ms. Rajendran is a research assistant on education in Upcountry. Ms. Rajendran worked as a project officer in the Movement for Plantation People's Land Rights as a project officer in the Center for Environmental Justice. Currently, she is employed as a research assistant in the Research on Education in Hill Country and Land Rights of Hill Country Fellows.
Thank you for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I stand before you shed light on a pressing issue that affects women in upcountry Sri Lanka, the challenges they are facing completing their education. Although the free education policy was introduced in Sri Lanka in 1945, it took about 30 years for the plantation community benefit from it. Education is a fundamental right. Yet many girls in upcountry Sri Lanka struggle to complete their schooling due to various obstacles. One of the main challenges is the lack of access to quality education. Many schools in the region lack proper infrastructure, qualified teacher, and basic amenities such as clean water, sanitization facility. This makes it difficult for girls to attend the school regularly and perform well academically. Another major challenge is poverty. Many families in upcountry struggle to meet their end needs and often prioritize the education of the boys over girls. Cultural norms and gender stereotypes also play a significant role. Girls are expected to prioritize household works than the education, limiting their access to schooling. Additionally, early marriage is prevalent in the region, with many girls being married off before they can complete their education. Moreover, the economical crisis deeply drove many to further prioritize reducing burdens, including education costs. Despite these challenges, our resilience and determination of these young women are remarkable. They are strive to overcome obstacles, often walking long distance to school and studying under challenging conditions. They are thirst for knowledge and desire to create a better future for themselves and their communities are truly inspiring. Even after completing their schooling or university, many educated women face difficulties in finding suitable jobs. To address these challenges, we must work together to ensure that every girl has access to quality education. This requires investment in schools, teacher training programs, providing free transportation for students, providing meals for schools, providing leadership and training and initiative to raise awareness about importance of girls in upcountry. It also enables addressing the root cause of poverty and challenging harmful gender norms that hinder girls' access to education. Empowering women through the education, it's not a just moral imperative, it's essential for suitable sustainable development and achieving gender equality. When a woman are educated, they are better equipped to make informed decisions, contribute to their communities, and break the circle of poverty. Let us commit to supporting the education of girls by investing their future. We are investing in a more just, equitable, and prosperous world for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rajendran. Now, please help me welcome Mrs. Rosie Bida, who was born and raised in the upcountry. She is an Economic Development Officer in Nuwara, Sri Lanka. Mrs. Bida's testimony will showcase her resilience and determination despite her personal challenges. Mrs. Bida's inspiring story sheds light on how women can be empowered and in turn can make a powerful impact on the people and community around them. Here is her story.
Hello everyone, my name is Rosie Bita and it is an honor to speak to you today. I was born in Kandy in the upcountry in Sri Lanka. I was one of 4 children. My family lived a happy modest life in Kandy. But in 1983, when I was just 6 years old, my family lost everything in 1983 fog, including our home and business. We moved to Kuliyapitiya to start new life. Life in Kuliyapitiya was not easy. When I was only 13 years old, my mother got cancer. I became a very difficult time for my family. Even though we had financial problems, I did very well in my school exam. My father told me to stop school due to money, but I didn't want to stop studying. Education was the only way I could change my life. I started chicken farm from our little home and I funded my own higher education. I could change my and I studied hard to earn management degree for Jayawardhanapura University. I was working at the same time. With my degree, my move up in company from an account to clerk branch manager. My promotion was a very important moment in my life. It gave me confidence. I know I set my mind to goal. I could achieve it. After my mother passed away, I got married and settled in Hatton. Hatton is my husband's hometown and where Sri Lanka famous tea plantations are located. Hatton is far from Kuliyapitiya, so I had to leave my job with live in Hatton. Hatton is a beautiful area, but it has very few resources. There is no heating and it is very cold. The workers are working long hours and they make less than $3 per day. No one in Hatton owned land, so they are forced to live in line houses. 5 to 10 people share small spaces 8 by 8 meters and the houses don't have windows or even proper kitchen. There is no running water. In some houses, there is no electricity. The people living there victims modern slavery. In Hatton, I decided to start chicken farm from our home again. But Hatton's cool temperature made it more difficult. I took my many years, but with time, our dedication, our business began to succeed. By the time I had 3 children, my chicken farm was very successful, but I still felt like I was not doing anything in my societies. I wanted to help the people in Hatton. I grew up in very poor condition, but I was able to study development skill, start a business and change my life. So I wanted to give this opportunity to the people in Hatton as well. I applied for a job with the government and was selected to be an economic development officer. This was great opportunity for me to social work. I now need to balance my family at home with 3 kids, my poultry farm and my new job with the government. I didn't want to waste a second of my life. I wanted to lead by example for the other women. I started women societies and agriculture societies to help women self-employment. I started with only 20 women. We started training program to help them learn gardening, poultry farming, and how to make food like yogurt, curd, drinking yogurt, milk, toffee, ghee, and cheese. Our society now have over 200 women. I also applied granted and submitted project proposal that allowed us to get funding from many international non-profit organizations. The non-profit organizations supplied us with machinery and money to cover 60% of expenses to building sales center. The remaining 40% were self-funding through our own sale land by investing our own profits. We now have production and transformation machinery and we are building more and more sales center in various areas. In 2018, due to my dedication to help communities, I had the privilege of referencing our country in China. I had received further training there on how to improve the businesses our societies. Within a decade, we completely transformed the estate area and the life of many families. I am here to support our communities, but now I am proud to say that my many women have to skill and confidence to even build their own business without me. My message to all women listening today is that hard work can lead to remarkable transformation. The most difficult part is finding the willpower within us. There is no limit to what we can achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pita, for that inspiring story. Now, please help me welcome Dr. Ainsley Newman, who is a freelance consultant, community development practices in Sri Lanka. Dr. Newman started his social activism work in December of 2004 by providing aid to tsunami victims. Since then, he has devoted himself to community development. Dr. Newman's involvement spans from ground-level discussions to strategic proposal development, with 18 years of unwavering service in the field. Dr. Newman received an honorary doctorate in community development services from UNICEF from a Brazilian university. Take it away, Dr. Newman.
Thank you, Anisha Radhakrishnan. Greetings and blessings from Sri Lanka. I am going to present a statement on Sri Lankan tea estates, generations of unrecognized women. For generations, women have been the backbone of Sri Lanka's upcountry tea estates. A 2021 study by International Labour Organization found that women constitute a staggering 70% of the total workforce on these plantations. However, despite their vital role, a crucial barrier to their empowerment remains the lack of land rights. These women live and work on sprawling tea plantations owned by the government and leased to regional plantation companies, RPCs, who provide a basic colonial era housing. Sri Lanka's legal system, based on the Land Reforms Act of 1972, guarantees land ownership rights to its citizens. However, inexplicably, this act excludes estate workers, creating a cycle of impermanence, with women especially vulnerable. Research by the Center for Poverty Analysis in 2022 found that 80% of women surveyed on estates expressed feeling of insecurity due to their lack of land rights. The study also found that over 60% of female estate workers in Sri Lanka expressed a desire to start their own small business, but lacked the land collateral needed to secure loans. Land ownership traditionally strengthens a woman's social and economic standing. A 2023 World Bank report highlights that owning land increases a woman's likelihood of running a business by 20% and significantly improves her children's educational attainment. According to a 2023 World Bank report, 70% of women landowners in developing countries reported feeling more secure about their future. But without land ownership, these Sri Lankan women lack the security to build a secure future for themselves and their families. A 2023 survey by the Sri Lankan Women's Development Center found that over 80% of female estate workers expressed a desire to cultivate small vegetable plots to supplement their income, but were unable to do so due to lack of land rights. Landlessness weakens bargaining power. The lack of land rights weakens a woman's position within the estate structure. They are entirely dependent on the RPCs for housing, leaving them susceptible to exploitation. A 2020 report by Amnesty International documented instances of wage theft and unfair labor practices on Sri Lankan estates, highlighting the vulnerability of workers without land rights. Furthermore, limited control over land hinders their ability to access resources like credit or pursue income-generating activities beyond tea plucking. A 2021 study by the National Endowment for Democracy Fund that only 2% of women in estates have been able to access bank loans due to their lack of collateral. Studies by the International Labour Organization show that lack of land ownership disproportionately affects female agricultural workers, who are twice as likely to experience wage discrimination and 3 times more likely to have limited decision-making power within their households compared to their male counterparts with land ownership. Land ownership, the key to empowerment. Empowering these women requires addressing the land ownership issue. Granting them ownership rights would be transformative. It would provide security, allowing them to invest in their homes, as studies show a strong correlation between land ownership and investment in housing quality, and explore alternative income streams such as starting small vegetable gardens or raising livestock for additional income. Land ownership also strengthen their voice within the community, empowering them to advocate for better working conditions and social welfare programs. Beyond ownership, a fight for dignity. The fight for the land rights in the upcountry tea estates is not just about ownership. It's about dignity and empowerment. By securing their rightful place on the land they have nurtured for generations, these women can build a brighter future for themselves, their families, and the entire estate community. That's all. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is Newman for the International United Women Federation from Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. Next, we have a statement from Mr. Dickson Peter Francis, who is an associate member of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka. Mr. Francis was an Asia Pacific Regional Horizon TOT member for World Vision International. He rose to the position of Cluster Program Manager of World Vision Lanka from being the Zonal Field Finance Manager. Take it away, Mr. Francis.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Dickson Peter Francis, and born and raised in the Upcountry region. And with over 13 years professional experience in the state community development, and I am here to discuss the critical challenges faced by women in the upcountry tea plantation state of Sri Lanka, and propose some recommendation for the sustainable future. The legacy of the state community is deeply rooted in 19th century, introduced by the British as part of their colonial enterprises. The system established an enduring social and economic structure that continues to impact the predominantly ethnic Tamil communities residing in this state. Despite contributing significantly to the national economy through tea production, these communities face complex challenges. In Sri Lanka, population include 4.1%, approximately 1.2 million of Indian origin Tamil, with over 300,000 individuals employed in the tea sector, of which 65% are women. These women are the backbone of the industry, yet they are among the most vulnerable, facing harsh working conditions, low pay, and limited access to education and healthcare. Even though the educational opportunities within this community are dire, with only 53% of female children completing primary schooling. The progression to the secondary education dropped to 24%, and mere 4% advanced beyond that level. This stark dropout is a testament to the socio-economic barriers that prevent these women and girls from pursuing higher education and breaking the cycle of poverty. Economically, the disparity between state workers and the urban population are profound. The average monthly income for state households stands at rupees 31,895, starkly lower than the urban mean of rupees 68,336. The inflation rate, which hit a record high of 67.4 in September 2022, further exacerbates the gap, with the state workers' income remaining stagnant. As a result, state workers allocate 90% of their income to food, neglecting other critical areas such as education, health, and nutrition for their families. My personal experience with organizations like World Vision highlight the potential for improvement. By supporting state workers to generate secondary income, we have seen tangible improvements in their ability to meet basic needs, indicating that targeted intervention can make a difference. Addressing these challenges requires a multiple phased approaches. In short term, educational and skill development workshops focused on vocational training and entrepreneurship are vital. Access to microfinance and financial literacy program will empower these women to manage their finances better and embark on small business ventures. Networking events connecting upcountry women with mentors and peers can foster a supportive community for growth and learning. In long-term strategy must include advocacy for policy reform. The government's focus on rural development often overlooks estate communities, controlled largely by estate management. Advocacy efforts should aim to ensure that these communities receive a fair share of resources and support. Economic empowerment initiatives are also critical as they offer state workers opportunities to break free from cycle of poverty and vulnerability. In conclusion, the challenges faced by women in the upcountry tea plantation state of Sri Lanka are deeply rooted in historical, social, and economic structure. However, with targeted intervention, advocacy, and community support, we can begin to disseminate these barriers. By empowering these women, we not only improve their lives, but also contribute to the broader socio-economic development of Sri Lanka. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to working together towards a brighter future for the upcountry state communities. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Francis, for that insightful statement. Next on our agenda are our expert panelists. Now I'll pass it along to my co-moderator, Ms. Banu, to introduce our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Anusha, for a wonderful beginning to today's session. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Banu here, and let's express our appreciation for the speakers and guests who have shared their knowledge and lived experiences thus far at the event. It is not an easy task. As much as it is crucial to hear from those who lived these experiences or are still living these experiences, it is also equally important to hear from experts who have to weave through the intricacies of social setup to bring a difference to these communities. We're pleased to bring you the expertise of 4 such panelists who will be sharing their research and thoughts on the programs and methods of empowering upcountry women. As the panelists are presenting, please send your questions through chat, and please remember to keep yourself on mute to maintain the continuity of the program. First up, we have a legal expert, Mr. Lorenzo Fiorito. Lorenzo Fiorito is a legal editor and student barrister in the UK. He is of Malayalam Tamil and Italian-Canadian heritage. He has advocated for Tamil self-determination and justice for genocide at the UN Human Rights Council, the European Parliament, and the French National Assembly, among other venues. His recent collaborative publications include Dynamics of the Changing Global Order and Media, Public Opinion, and the ICC in the Russia-Ukraine War. Lorenzo will be speaking on the topic of the political role and status of upcountry Tamil women from colonial times to today. Let's welcome Lorenzo.
Thank you very much, Banu, for the kind introduction. Vanakkam. So as mentioned, I prepared a short talk on the topic of the political role and status of upcountry Tamil women from colonial times until today. In choosing this title, I emphasize the word Tamil. The upcountry is an integral part of a greater Tamil whole. Its struggle for rights is part of an inseparable cause, the Tamil struggle for freedom, on the island which the ancient Chola Empire called Ilum, the British name Ceylon, and is known as Sri Lanka today. The displacement of Tamil workers to the tea plantations of Ceylon began under British rule in 1823, just over 200 years ago. The British Empire was in a phase of consolidation and reform, abolishing enslavement practices in 1833 that targeted Africans and Afro-descended peoples. The tea estates were located in the predominantly Sinhala South. The pre-colonial Kandyan kingdom of the region had only been ceded to the British in 1815. There was still stiff resistance among the ordinary Sinhala people of the time towards working for the British colonizer. In contrast, the Great Famine of 1876 to 1878 in colonial South India created a push factor for Tamil workers to acquiesce to the demand for capitalist forms of bonded labor. Their displacement arguably was coercive. The famine's reported causes include the fact that British administrators continued to export a record amount of wheat from India to England as Indians continued to die of hunger. Proposals for relief efforts appear to have been discouraged, and some estimates say that around 1/4 of the population died. Those who survived needed to find alternate means of making a living. Tamil workers under what's known as the Tundu system of bonded labor were bound to Tamil recruiters known as Kanganis to the British estates that employed them. If the workers left the tea estates, they would suffer deportation back to India. Today, we might call this modern slavery. Tamil women were first brought to the upcountry to serve as wives to the male laborers. Their initial work was thus to provide the domestic labor of maintaining their households and the reproductive labor of bearing children, which allowed the tea estate workforce to reproduce. However, employers soon found that first, women could be incentivized to work for wages, and that second, they could be paid less than their male counterparts for the same work. Scholars Kurian and Jayawardena record that the female population of the Tamil upcountry rose from 2.6% in 1843 to 27% in 1866, to comprising a majority of the workforce later on. At the very least, until Sri Lanka conducted economic reforms in 1977, the tea estates were Sri Lanka's primary source of revenue. Tea exports remain a significant pillar of the Sri Lankan economy. Therefore, it is no exaggeration to say that upcountry Tamil women built Sri Lanka's economy with their hands and with their wombs. I'll fast forward from the late 1800s to decolonization in 1948. The British government sought to rebuild the domestic British economy after World War II. It decided to end direct colonial administration and dismantle the empire. When Britain withdrew from Ceylon, it left behind an artificially united political administration. Until 1833, the Tamil Northeast, roughly coinciding with the territory of the pre-colonial kingdom of Jaffnapatam, had been administered separately from the Sinhala South by Portuguese, Dutch, and earlier British colonizers. Ceylon's decolonization process in 1948 failed to unravel this illegal merger with what should have been consultation with the Tamil population. Instead, some Tamil politicians from the north facilitated the continued merger throughout Ceylon's decolonization process without obtaining consent from Tamils. These Tamil politicians saw the upcountry Tamil population as a threat for three reasons. First, the upcountry Tamil workers had just recently fought for and gained the right to vote under British colonialism. In particular, upcountry Tamil women, with the leadership of an articulate woman organizer named Meenakshi Amma, won the right to vote under the Donoughmore Constitution of 1931. The estate workers comprised roughly 150,000 eligible voters and 1 million in population. They preferred leftist parties over the Tamil parties dominated by elites living in Jaffna. Second, the upcountry was a threat due to the tea estate's outsized economic power within the Ceylonese economy. The workforce, again, predominantly female, had achieved near 100% unionization under leftist leadership. Such a well-organized workforce presented the threat of strikes to achieve both economic and political demands. Finally, a politically and economically empowered upcountry challenged the feudal mentality of caste dominance, which underlay the attitudes of these northern politicians. Their solution was to collaborate with their Sinhala counterparts to remove voting rights and the rights of citizenship from the upcountry. This was accomplished under the Indian and Pakistani Residence Act of 1949 on the basis of upcountry Tamils' inability to produce birth certificates and proof of uninterrupted residency in Ceylon, thanks in part to inefficient government administration in the upcountry. It seems these politicians also voted against the Ceylon Citizenship Act of 1948, but both bills would have passed with or without Tamil votes in Parliament. Seen in this historical light, the effect of the Ceylon Citizenship Act of 1948 and the Indian and Pakistani Residence Act of 1949 was to counteract the gains made in 1931 by upcountry Tamil women political organizers, together with their male counterparts. A legal challenge to these acts, brought in 1953 to the British Privy Council, where former colonies still took some disputes, failed to rectify the injustice. Of course, disempowering such a significant sector of the Tamil polity on the island meant that all Tamils suffered a gradual loss of rights. The roots of the war between Tamil Eelam and Sri Lanka and of the Mullaikal genocide of 2009 lie in this episode of improper decolonization. Voting rights were gradually restored from the Shastri Srimago Pact of 1964 onward, though this agreement also included many repatriations to India. A prayer campaign, or satyagram, to end statelessness was led in 1986. The last upcountry votes were secured by negotiators of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam during internationally monitored peace talks with Sri Lankan representatives in 2003. This is likely because it was in the state of Tamil Eelam that caste discrimination and gender discrimination were first abolished by law. Today, problems remain. Scholar Balasundaram Sasikumar reported government statistics showing a female sterilization rate of 41% in the upcountry, as opposed to Sri Lanka's national average of 17%, retelling stories of where this was done without consent. Similarly, the Tamil Memorial Foundation's 2024 International Women's Day statement documents a long reported history of sexual violence and rape perpetrated by Sinhala soldiers against Tamil women, showing that no Tamil person can be free until all Tamil women are free to control their own bodies and their own destinies. Between 2015 and 2021, the struggle was for pay to be increased to 1,000 rupees per day, or $3.25 daily in American currency. A strike in 1984 won the equality of pay between men and women. But mismanagement of the Sri Lankan economy in recent years has led to hyperinflation that has erased even this meager progress. The tea estates are still subject to a separate administration from local Sri Lankan government authorities. This includes the provision of medical services and infrastructure, which remain far below the national standard. Nothing I've said is exhaustive by any means. This history is only beginning. As the son of an upcountry Tamil woman, a mother who instilled in me the value of education and hard work, I thank my forebears, the matriarchs of our Malayagam, for everything they have done that allowed me to be here today. Nandri Vanakkam.
Thank you, Lorenzo, for that empowering talk. I request our audience to continue sending their questions through chat so we can ask our questions during the Q&A. Next, we have Dr. P. Sudarsan, MBBS, a medical expert. Dr. P. Sudarsan was born in Hatton and raised in Sri Lanka's Hill Country region. He earned his MBBS degree from the University of Paranadhaniya. After completing his internship at the District General Hospital in Nuwara, Eliya, he served as a medical officer for maternal and child health in the Nuwara Eliya district from 2015 to 2018. Following this, he spent 4 years working in the curative health sector before returning to the public health sector as an additional medical officer of health in Nuwara Eliya. The doctor will be speaking to us on the topic of teenage pregnancy in upcountry society. Dr. Sudarsan, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. I am really privileged and much honored to grace this wonderful occasion. As I desire to extend my knowledge and enthusiasm to overcome one of the demanding health problems faced by the women in community which I belongs to. Malayaga Tamil, the name given for the people, come to Sri Lanka in 19th and 20th centuries from Tamil Nadu, southern India, to work coffee, tea, and rubber plantations. They have long-standing challenges in education, finance, transport, sanitation, language, social problems, etc. These factors directly or indirectly influencing the health status of the community, especially wellness of among girls in the upcountry, which is teenage pregnancy. When a girl gets pregnant below the age of 19 years, considered as teenage pregnancy. Exploring the causes, consequences, and potential solution is crucial in addressing these issues, supporting the well-being of women in their community. In Sri Lanka, according to DHS survey in 2007, the rate of teenage pregnancy in the estate population is very low, 9.6 of total pregnancies, while the national rate was 6.4. So it's very important to find out why the rates of teenage pregnancies are high, what are the root causes and contributor factors, and how we can make our action plans and policies to overcome these problems. I would like to share my experience as a public health professional and some data gathered from 5 studies conducted in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, various studies show that the age of initiating love relationship in a girl low around 12 years of age, and boy is above 5 years older or more. The tendency is much higher in low socioeconomic household like estate community. Mishandling of the relationship by the parents, school authorities, and the community invariably leads to a cascade of events that makes the adolescent girl to leave the school and stay at home. When the girl drops out from the school, education, dreams about the future, and ambition will be ended there. Those who drop out from the schools may find employment in garment factories or domestic works or even casual works due to limited option, and they face an increased risk of pregnancy due to such factors, limited awareness of reproductive health, inadequate access to contraception, and challenging working conditions. Most of the unintended pregnancies end up in unwanted pregnancies or unsafe abortions, as the abortion is not regularized in countries like Sri Lanka. Unsafe abortions are largely affect the mental status of the teenage mother and leads to self-harming activities like suicides. In the context of parents, those who are working in the tea field, the involvement of grandparents and neighbors as a caregiver for the girls becoming essential to the community. While the involvement of such people will potentially lead to negative impact on girl well-being and create insecure living place to such girls and leads to physical and sexual abuse. The economic status of the estate community often falling into low economic category, with the parent being mainly concerned with their day-to-day survival than the quality of care in bringing up their children. Poverty of the people drives complete attention towards the income generation, which result in mother migrating as a domestic workers to Middle East countries or to urban areas like Colombo, while the others are engaging in unskilled labor or seasonal farmers. Under these circumstances, there is little attention in education and spending on quality of time with their children. When the women leaving the abroad, the men tend to get new relationship with another woman and getting addicted to alcohol or other narcotic substances. Then the incidence of child abuse, child labor, and home-based violence will increase, leading to many socio-economic problems, including teenage pregnancy. If we take the healthcare provision, the main healthcare provider for the women and child health in the field level, medical officer of health. The first contact person in the health system is public health midwife. They give preconceptional and conceptional postnatal care under leadership of the medical officer of health. In preconceptional care, they do screen for communicable and non-communicable disease, providing family planning counseling as well. You know, Tamil-speaking Indian origin people living more than 50% of total population in rural district. Unfortunately, most of the healthcare providers are Sinhalese, and it creates language barriers, especially when they provide family planning and counseling services. Even though contraceptive facilities are freely available with the public health midwife, it is not easily accessible to the teenagers or unmarried people because of the social stigma. Even after successful counseling with the couple about the risk of becoming pregnant of a teenage mother, the decision to make family planning depends on the male partner and his family members. The feeling of responsibility of motherhood at young age, the live stream to contribute many psychological problems to the girl. And on the other hand, pregnancy seems to joyful event for the male partner. Significant amount of upcountry people are still living in the line houses as extended families in a small area which consists of only 1 or 2 rooms. Privacy for the women and adolescent female girls are very minimal and create uncomfortable environment to live. On our culture and norms, social stigma are not giving freedom to discuss problems of girls' love affair or issues related to sexuality with their parents or caregivers. This is also one important factor influencing teenage pregnancy. According to WHO, teenage mothers are facing higher risk of physical and mental problems such as pregnancy-induced hypertension, puerperal endometriosis, baby's blue, postpartum depression, and systemic infection compared to women aged 20 to 24 years. So teenage pregnancy is not only the medical or surgical problem, it will affect the physical, mental, and social well-being of girl and their family. So ladies and gentlemen, if you could make some changes in our program or thinking in more effective way, give better results. So we have to make policy decision to take on recruitment of public health midwife who is capable of understanding the living style of the people and must fluent in Tamil, preferably Tamil-speaking upcountry community. The strengthen the school curriculum of sexual and reproductive health subject in comprehensive training programs so teachers can help educators to give necessary knowledge on sexual and reproductive health. Increase the facilities of adolescent and youth-friendly services centers in their own languages. Empower the women on money management and decision-making like family planning. Strengthen the availability and accessibility of standard healthcare facility without considering the ethnicity, caste, or political party. All government and non-government organizations work multi-sector approach to attitudinal change in positive manner to make next generation better. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Thank you, Doctor, for your thoughts. Thank you to the audience for sending your questions through. We will cover these at the end of the panelist presentation. Now we have Rukmi Jaisinghe. Rukmi Jaisinghe, a development professional in global health, focuses on addressing health system gaps in low to middle income countries. With expertise in community development, she emphasizes child, maternal, and social health promotion, girls' education, and sustainable community-based approaches. Rukmi has held senior positions in NGOs like Save the Children International and founded Women in Research in Sri Lanka. She earned a Master's in Science in Global Health from Queen Margaret University as an honorary Commonwealth Scholar and currently contributes to Global Health Discourse from Canada. Her topic today is on community-led research approaches for better accountability and sustainable development in upcountry population. Welcome, Rukmi. And I know you are going to be sharing your screen as well, so we appeal to your patience as she shares the screen. Thank you.
Banu, let me to share my screen first. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the community-led research for better accountability and sustainability development for upcountry population. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the introduction of community-led research approach and its applications and the contribution towards sustainable development. The community-led research approach. Here, community is sharing responsibilities, resources, and collaboratively working throughout the research. It is not just being answered in a questionnaire, but it's more about taking ownership of the research. So it's kind of a bottom-up approach. And although it's less defined, it's more organic. It gives more accountability and it gives more power to the people who are closest to the issue. So more importantly, it's an effective education and empowerment tool. So basically, this approach could apply in all the field of the development sectors, including health, well-being, nutrition, promotion, education, lifelong learning, cultural or recreational or reconciliation aspects, even economic development, social justice, and social services, environmental sustainability, disaster management, or emergency responses. When it comes to research aspects, it could be applied in the whole process of research and also in monitoring, evaluation, accountability mechanisms, and learning aspects. This approach could use as a filling the data gap in the upcountry population, specifically when it comes to the community development. In many low middle income countries, there is a lack of requisite human, human and technical financial resources to the robust and accurate data. So they are failing to realize the benefit of evidence-based policy making and decision making. So data could be used. Sometimes data is used to be manipulated by authorities for beneficial purposes. Therefore, this approach could be used as a filling a gap of data in the community sector. This approach could also lead to formation of community data hubs that may inclusion of children, youths, women, and men. They serve as a centralized repositories for community-related information. So it's kind of a participation approach with direct stakeholders of community. Could be qualitative or quantitative data gathering, and this nitty-gritty information and analysis could be provide a real picture of community challenges and also effective tool for the program design, planning, and implementation. So these data hubs could be act as a trustworthy data repositories. So how this approach could contribute to the community-led development? As I mentioned earlier, community-led research groups with women, men, or youths could work as community-led learning platforms. These groups could be data generating hubs at community level and one of the most powerful accountability mechanisms. On top of that, building and sustaining a strong and healthy connection with estate management at plantation sector, as well as with government departments, local and international NGOs, academia, and other stakeholders. In that way, this would be contributing the most reliable and updated data for decision making and design, implement and fine-tune policies and programs at estate management level, regional level, as well as at national level. So all in all, this approach could impact to see positive changes in lives in upcountry population. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rukmi, for that wonderful insight of how powerful some of these community-based collaborative approaches can work in such a situation. Last but not the least, we have Rathika Sitsabaiesan wrapping up the panelist presentations, and after this, we will have our Q&A session. Rathika is a seasoned leader with 20 years of experience across diverse fields. As an educator and award-winning professor at Centennial College, she passionately advocates for equity, diversity, and inclusion principles. In Canadian federal politics, she made history as the youngest MP in Ontario and the first MP of Tamil descent. Rathika's initiatives include fighting child poverty. Drawing from her personal experiences as a child of war, daughter of an injured worker, and immigrant of color in Canada, she's a longtime advocate and activist against injustice and discrimination, striving for a fairer world for her daughter. Today, she will be speaking to us on the topic of education, gender-based barriers for girls in accessing. Please take it away, Rathika.
Thank you so much, Banu. It's an honor to be invited to speak at this event for the UN Commission on the Status of Women, which has kindly been organized by the IUWF and the Alliance Creative Community Project. This event focuses on empowering upcountry Tamil women, as you've all been hearing. As a Tamil woman born in Tamilulam, a non-self-governing state that is in the north and east of the island known as Sri Lanka, I have personal experience with many of the multiple intersecting barriers that upcountry Tamil women face. I'm also aware and mindful of the specific barriers that women of the upcountry must also deal with, which are unique specifically to that community. The most important bond that I share in common with women of the upcountry is that I am a Tamil woman. As Tamil women, we must face two kinds of pressure simultaneously: living as Tamils under an anti-Tamil Sri Lankan government, and living as women in a community where patriarchy remains a feature of our daily lives. Before going on to speak about possible solutions, I'll outline a few problems, and some of them we've actually heard from other speakers as well. All Tamil women of the island belong to a nation, the Tamil nation, which is currently experiencing a genocide. This genocide began when Ceylon was improperly decolonized and became independent from Britain in 1948. Among the very first acts of the independent Ceylon government was to strip nearly 1 million upcountry Tamil voters of their citizenship rights, making them stateless people. Although they had been living in Ceylon for well over 100 years by 1948 and had had the right to vote under the British colonial administration, their ancestry in southern India was used as a pretext to take away their votes and their rights when the British left. This, of course, weakened the power of the Tamil population as a whole, making it possible for the Sinhala chauvinist government to pass legislation that removed rights from all Tamils of the island. This legislation included the Sinhala-only Act of 1956, which of course excluded Tamil as an official language of the civil service, and the standardization of university administration in 1971, which reduced the number of Tamils who were granted access to higher education. It also included the status of the Buddhist religion, which the Sri Lankan constitution even today describes as having the foremost place in the country. This excludes nearly all Tamil-speaking people on the island who practice Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity today. Remember, Sri Lanka's genocide against Tamils continued militarily between 1983 and 2009. It reached its peak in May of 2009, when a massacre of over 146,000 people in a few short weeks. Upcountry activists have stated that 30 to 40% of these victims were originally from the upcountry. They had fled Sri Lankan government-sponsored pogroms in the south and were protected by the government of the state of Tamil. When Sri Lanka crushed Tamilulam's government and its people in violence, upcountry Tamils paid with their lives alongside Tamils of the north and east. Sri Lanka's genocide against against Ilam Tamils continues in many hidden ways, including over land rights and reproductive rights. While northern and eastern Tamils are losing their properties through land grabs conducted by the army and the Buddhist clergy, upcountry Tamils are deprived of the ability to own the land they have worked on for centuries. Specific to Ulam Tamil women, there are multiple reports of sterilization conducted against Tamil women without their informed consent, even to the point of being coerced. These reports came from the north and east as well, but as we've heard today as well, overwhelmingly these reports came from the upcountry. So while these Tamil grievances are well known to anyone who understands Tamil issues on the island, it is of the utmost importance to remember that the oppression of all Tamils in Sri Lanka began with the government's attacks on the citizenship rights of upcountry Tamils. The militarized genocide of Ulam Tamil people was conducted against upcountry Tamils as well as Tamils of the north and east. Sri Lanka did not distinguish between its civilian targets in any way. Persistent reports indicate that government-approved medical procedures are being or have been conducted to deprive Tamil women of their reproductive rights, and we've heard more of that today, to have as many children as they wish to that they choose for themselves. Upcountry Tamil women bear the brunt of this form of genocide. But living under a racist government is only one of the problems that upcountry Tamil women must deal with. Within the family and the larger community, women of the upcountry are also in exactly the same situation as North and Eastern Tamil women. Our male relatives and fellow community members sometimes expect our subservience rather than our respect. We are often expected to perform the double duty of working outside the home while also taking care of the household chores and raising children. Often, those men who are closest to us can do the most long-lasting damage in the form of abuse and manipulation to act against our own best interests. As a Tamil woman from the north, I must also describe the ways that my own sector of Tamil community can participate in discrimination against people of the upcountry. These attitudes are rooted in internalized caste prejudice. It is important to understand that the Tamil movement made important strides to abolish and uproot caste discrimination over many decades. However, stereotypes and derogatory language are still frequently used today within the Tamil community to describe upcountry people. We've even heard this in the introductory video that was presented today. Our caste-based attitudes can be harmful in many ways. To understand these effects of these attitudes, we really do need to look at the participation of Tamil lawmakers in depriving upcountry Tamils of their citizenship rights at independence. I can only tell my own Northern and Eastern Tamil sisters and brothers that every time they discriminate against someone from the upcountry, expecting them to perform menial tasks or making an assumption about their abilities in society, we harm all Tamils, including ourselves. So now let me move towards speaking about some solutions. Empowering upcountry women does mean political empowerment and self-determination, making choices about what kind of government administration they wish to live under and what kind of legal system applies to them. This includes, in compliance with, of course, the UN conventions, guarantees of land rights, reproductive rights, and the legally enforced right to be free from caste discrimination. However, such forms of empowerment are long-term goals. Today, I see two pathways forward to empowering Tamil women of the island, which apply specifically and with double importance to upcountry women. First is access to education, and second, facilitating economic opportunities. Access to education is key for upcountry women. We've heard this time and time again today, because education provides an opportunity to escape the spiral of poverty and a route toward careers outside of the tea estate economy. Upcountry women are often assigned to perform the most important labor of plucking tea leaves, difficult work that leaves the women who perform it exhausted and even disabled over time. Again, we heard this from the women themselves in the video. Education opens doors to alternative careers. For this reason, education is often denied to upcountry women in subtle ways, including through pressure from family members and discrimination within state-run universities. Preventing these same women from having access to education is one way to keep them in forms of work that are physically destructive and damaging both intellectually and physically to these women, and continue that cycle of the modern day form of enslavement of these women. All the while, these women are creating tea products that continue to form one of the most significant bases of the Sri Lankan government's economy. Access through education for upcountry women can be expanded in several ways. One example would be creating scholarships targeted at women of the upcountry, making education a financial possibility for these women. Successful members of the Tamil diaspora, allies, and ally organizations could establish these scholarships. Another method of providing access to education would be to establish private universities and vocational training facilities within the upcountry regions themselves, so that there wouldn't be difficulties in transportation and accessing these educational institutions. Again, the same group of Tamils, allies, and organizations abroad could invest in creating institutions that provide people of the upcountry, particularly the women, with access to education. Similarly, diasporic Tamils with access to government connections in their home countries could work to establish access to foreign exchange programs for upcountry women to study abroad, bringing home skills and experience that would benefit their local communities. Economic empowerment is just as important as education, and the two go hand in hand. NGOs can provide upcountry women with the skills to establish successful businesses. All businesses require seed capital. NGOs could facilitate access to microcredit. We heard about microfinancing earlier, allowing women entrepreneurs in the upcountry to borrow small amounts of money to buy equipment or livestock that they need to found their businesses. The Tamil diaspora could invest in small and medium-sized enterprises founded by women of the upcountry, allowing these businesses a true opportunity for success. A successful business, it needs more than just seed capital and an idea. You need good administration skills, management, accounting, which an educated workforce can provide. Successful businesses are also those that find a market niche, providing a service or product that no one else can, or providing it more affordably than their competitors. For businesses run by upcountry women, this includes finding global export markets for handicrafts, manufactured products, and locally grown agricultural products. Once again, the Tamil diaspora could provide a sector of this export market, and our own business people could advertise towards non-Tamil consumers in places like Canada, the UK, the USA, Europe, Australia. We're all over the world now, so let's provide these links. And the links between the diaspora and the homeland are more than sentimental ties. They can really be economic supply chains. So I'll wrap up my talk today by saying that upcountry women are more than mere victims of their circumstances. They're agents of their own right, making their own decisions about what is best for them, their families, and their communities. They continue to thrive despite the political oppression from the state, gender-based barriers within their own communities, caste discrimination from the broader Tamil society, and class status within the tea estate economy that brings so much wealth into Sri Lanka. Access to education and economic opportunities are two of the main pathways that will allow women of the upcountry greater individual independence, greater social freedom, and greater political power. Links between the Tamil diaspora and the Tamil homeland can provide the channels for this empowerment. The benefits of empowering upcountry women will not stop with these individual women. With better education and more economic opportunities, their families will thrive and become more socially mobile. Their communities will become wealthier. All Tamils will have a better sense of solidarity when we can look at one another as equals. And finally, the global community will benefit from the contributions of the upcountry women whose full potential will finally be unleashed through education and economic opportunities. I thank you all for this opportunity and for hearing my thoughts.
Thank you, Rathika, for that goosebump ending as well. I have to echo your sentiment. I think that theme was quite consistent with all our panelists today, whereby we talk about if you educate a woman, if you empower a woman, she is going to bring up the family and therefore the community as well. And that is a thought that has echoed through all our panelists. That concludes all the presentations, but we're going to get to the interactive part of the session today. So let's spotlight all our panelists. Thank you so much for all of your time. And I also want to give a very heartfelt thanks and applause for everyone who stuck to their time limits. I know it's very tough to put such complex thoughts within the time limit that we have provided, but it definitely helps us keep the audience engagement and the timing that we want to wrap up the conversation today. And it's great to note that we're actually a little bit ahead of time, so you might be able to take some additional questions. I will direct my next question to Dr. Sitsabaiesan. And one of the things that you kind of covered on was that in general, I mean, if you get a child out of wedlock, then it's that in itself, people will look at you differently because you've broken some social norms. But how do people actually look at this, or what is their reaction when a teenager gets pregnant in their family or even outside of their family? How do they get treated?
Thank you, Banu. It's a little bit tricky. For some people, they may encourage teenage pregnancy, like our grandparents. For some, it's a hot topic for some people. They tend to gossip it around them. For others, it's like friends of the girl. It's an unpleasant event, so they separate from the girl. So that's what we are saying, that this is a sensitive and little tricky issue to manage. Thank you.
Of course. So not only is she going through physical trauma in the whole situation, but it's almost like the entire world is turned against her instead of supporting her when she most needs it. And I think that's going to even have impact on the child, because we always hear that the mental state of the mother is going to impact the mental state of the child and the development and so on and so forth. Thank you for that. We're going to direct our question next to Rukmi. The first thing I wanted to ask you, Rukmi, and just as a reminder for the folks, she presented on community-led research approaches for better accountability and sustainable development. What are the specific sustainable development goals contributed by this community-led research approach?
Yeah, Banu, there are a couple of goals, couple of SDGs contributed. This community-led research could be contributed to a couple of SDGs. First one is the SDG 11, that is about sustainable cities and communities, and SDG 5 and SDG 10, that is gender equality and reduced inequalities. And also this approach could be directly contributed to the health and education. So the SDG 3 and 4, good health and well-being and quality education also could be included.
Awesome. Thank you. I apologize if I look like I'm not paying attention. I am. I'm also trying to moderate the chat here to make sure we're capturing questions. I have one more question for Lorenzo. You spoke a lot about the historical context. That was your theme. But one thing that I think in this day of technology and explosion of information on the internet, there's always a concern about how do we get validated historical context about things, and it's not just someone voicing off their opinions as opposed to basing it on true historical context. Do you have any suggestions on how or what sources people can refer to understand their history better? Because I believe that the more you learn about your history, the more you'll work on preventing it from happening again. So how do people refer to valid sources of history and make sure that they're well informed?
Well, my personal starting point was to speak to members of the community. I was not born with this knowledge. I didn't, pick it up from thin air. It was from members of the community that referred me to sources of information that were written in English that they recommended to me. And so everything that I put into my speech, I owe to these community members. But among the sources that I based a large part of my talk on are two by Rachel Kurian and the other Jayawardena, Class, Ethnicity, and Patriarchy on Sri Lankan tea plantations, and Persistent Patriarchy. The first is a book, the second is a pamphlet. And this really went into the history, outlined exactly what women's struggles in the upcountry have been from the early years up until the present day. This is referred to me by actually a man, a male writer living in Sri Lanka in the upcountry.
Amazing. And I think, Lorenzo, we can even touch base with you after the fact and maybe get some of these names, and then we can publish that to our followers here as well. So that would be super helpful. My next question was for Dr. Sudarshan about the teenage pregnancy in upcountry. I know you didn't really talk about this in your topic, but something that triggered as you were talking about all these impacts that are happening due to teenage pregnancies seem to heavily affect women, obviously, right? And you said that males are actually happy about the pregnancies, but females have a very different experience about this. And I think over a period of time, this is going to impact like how many women are going to be alive to begin with, healthily alive. So we're talking about losing more women to a lot of these issues. So what do you think? I'm asking for your opinion. I know that data might not be available, but in your opinion, how do you think this is going to impact the demographic balance? Because we always talk about nature's balance of 50% and 50% having male and female, but when they come to the world, we're destroying one half of it due to the policies and all the other things that we're doing. So how do you think in the long term, the female population is going to look like in these areas in terms of the demographics?
Thank you. See, actually, I don't have any data about that, but I can say with my experience, there won't be any big major demographic difference between male and female related to the teenage pregnancy in the upcountry population. But I think it's better to do a study and find it out. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you. I'm going to just point to another question that came up on chat. I think we've even got an upvote for it. So Rathika, I'm going to take up this question, and anyone from the panel can answer this. Without land ownership, how will we improve economic resilience? Any thoughts on that? Anyone can speak up.
My bad.
That's okay. No, we want to talk about the popular questions.
I think it's important. I forgot who was it? Nitherson, I think, asked the question.
Nitherson,
yeah. You're right. Land ownership is critical, and the access to land ownership means that it allows for longer term economic freedom for those individuals and families and creates generational or intergenerational wealth even through that land ownership. However, I agree 100% with you that land ownership needs to be a possibility for these women and these families. However, on the shorter and midterm, as that fight to continue to change the discriminatory legislation that prevents them from land ownership, I think the quicker fix would be access to education and economic opportunities so that they can maybe even the potential for land ownership. By the time that it becomes available to them, they will have finances to be able to own land and then maintain the land, because we've seen pictures and we've seen images of these properties that are not well maintained at all. So now the pride in ownership, I know that these women are going to make sure that these are pristine and living environments for themselves that are going to be safe. And for that, they're going to need the financial capabilities to be able to maintain it. So first and foremost, I would say is education, access to education. Simultaneously, if they have economic microfinancing, community support, organizational support to start and grow their own independent entrepreneurial initiatives, while at the same time making those legislative changes so that land ownership can be a reality, that's a trifold effect that will be able to create sustainable freedom and empowerment.
Amazing. Thank you. I had a follow-up question for Rukmi, and this came up in the chat, Rukmi. So do you have any thoughts you want to share on, say, social enterprises and some of that aspect when you talk about community-led research and development? Do they eventually lead into social enterprises that are helping with building the economic empowerment as well? Any thoughts on that you want to add? And this question was from Kishore Kumar.
My focus area is basically on health and development. So I'm not much into entrepreneurships and economic development. It's my bad. Apologies. If anyone could contribute, I think it's good.
Awesome. Okay, I will ask another question then from you. So what sort of support do we need to provide as technical experts or external parties for these groups to initiate and maintain better data collection? Because I know that without data, we can't really accomplish anything. And that's a shameless plug for myself coming from a data analytics background. But you know, how do we actually make this better?
Yeah. First of all, I think we need to think about and we need to analyze the capacities or the capabilities of the community, and by that we can identify their skill set and what are the gaps need to be filled. So based on that analysis, we need to provide continuous support in terms of skill development and the research influence and encouragement. So with that technical support, we could make a better community data hubs within the community. So that would be the our target, or the within having a powerful, effective data hubs available within the community sector.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm doing a quick time check. We're at the last 5 minutes. We appreciate all the questions that have come through. Unfortunately, we were not able to talk to all the questions in the chat, but we're hoping to follow up post-event. But at this point, I'd like to give my humble thanks and an applause for all the panelists for spending your precious Saturday, Sunday, Friday time zones with us. We do appreciate your feedback, and we're hoping that this awareness creates some sort of ripple actions in the downstream impacts as well. So that being said, I would now like to pass the floor to Subhangi, who would be closing us out today in terms of our session, and wrap up the conference as well. Subhangi, it's all yours.
Thank you, Banu. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw the curtains on the 68th session of the UN CSW, I'm filled with profound sense of gratitude and optimism. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Subanki Siva, the International Executive Officer of IUWF. I have had the privilege of working closely with Raji Patterson, our CEO, and the entire IUWF team from the early stages of the organization. Witnessing the growth of our organization and the impact we have made on the lives of countless women fills me with immense joy and pride. I extend my heartfelt thanks to all of our speakers and panelists who have shared their insight on critical topics ranging from education and teenage pregnancy to the challenges faced by the women in plantation sites and the importance of community-led research and monitoring. On behalf of the entire team, my special thanks goes out to our chief guest, Professor Tomoya Obokata, Special Rapporteur. Your presence emphasized the significance of international cooperation and unity in advancing the rights and well-being of women worldwide. I also want to express my gratitude to our IUWF team and volunteers for their tireless dedication and hard work in organizing this event. It is through your collective efforts that this event has been made possible. Last but not least, a special thank you also goes out to each and every attendee of this virtual event. Over 300 participants registered for this event from 12 different countries. Your participation and engagement is greatly appreciated. By empowering upcountry women, we directly contribute to the advancement of several sustainable development goals, including but not limited to quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, and reduced inequalities. These discussions are important for the UN platform as they help shape the global policies, initiatives, and advocacy for advancing the SDGs. By highlighting the challenges faced by the upcountry women, we help create a fairer and more inclusive world in line with the core principles of the United Nations. Furthermore, I would like to highlight that the IUWF is currently involved in numerous leadership programs tailored to upcountry women. We are not only dedicated to empowering women, but also to shaping the leaders of tomorrow. Through our leadership programs and life skill trainings, we aim to equip not only women, but also the girls and boys with the necessary tools to thrive and lead within their communities and beyond. These young individuals are not only our future hopes, but also the source of change in creating more equitable and inclusive society. Together, we have laid the groundwork for a future where every woman, regardless of her background or circumstances, can realize her full potential and contribute meaningfully to society. Thank you once again to all who have contributed to the success of this event. Let us move forward, empowered by the knowledge that change is not only possible, but inevitable when we stand united in solidarity. Thank you.